Welcome to the Book in You podcast. Today we're going to give you the 10 strategies to help you sort through the 3,003 book ideas that are rattling around in your brain right now. Tim, let's get started today. What do you have for us?
Well, it's safe to say, Jared, I'm a systems guy, but I wasn't always a systems guy. I was a double major in college, and one of my majors was commercial art. I'm artsy, and I'm creative, I think. But I would say if there's a creative listening right now going, I'm not a systems person, I'm a creative, I would say, because you're creative, you need to come up with systems, or you're going to wander all over the place. So I like to teach leadership with images. Habitudes are images that form leadership habits and attitudes. One of my favorite images or metaphors is trains and tracks. Think with me. Wouldn't it be stupid for a locomotive engineer to stop at a train station, hop off his own train and go, I'm tired of these train tracks. They're so confining. They keep me on one way, and I want to venture up that mountain. I want to climb that hill and see what's on the top of the hill. He'd never get to the top of the hill without a train track. In fact, I would say that train tracks don't confine you. They actually help you get to your goal.
Sure.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Every author knows he or she needs a train track, or you're going to wander everywhere and have 70,000 words, not 40,000, which is what your publisher's wanting. So I had to learn some strategies to, sort through the 4 book ideas to one best book idea. And that's what I want to talk about today. I feel as though we use too many words. Well, correction. I use too many words, but we've talked about this before, haven't we? If we don't know exactly what we're doing, we use more words thinking, we'll somewhere get to the right idea. And I think we need to do better. So
that resonates with me so deeply about systems. And when you said, I'm just a creative, I don't need systems. I, for one, have fought and bucked against that time and time again. And I think really for me in my story, I could say it was a maturity. I needed to mature in order to accept and embrace the systems that I needed in order to be most creative, right? Yeah. That resonates with me deeply. I think many of our audience would resonate with that as well.
So in our last episode, we talked about the idea farm, having a place to plant your ideas, one document, even if it seems random. Today, I want to help authors sort through those ideas and really force rank them. Wow. So let me start with a story. I remember one year I went down to visit John Maxwell since I'd worked for him for many years. And I said, could you give me a day? I got some questions. And I took to him 3 book ideas. And John, he's pretty quick. He immediately said, do that one. And I know what he did. He sorted it through in his head and he thought, several thoughts, I'm sure, but he knew which one to pick. And today I'd like to walk through how do you do that picking? Another image that I'm sure everybody has heard of is big rocks first. I remember going to a conference years ago and the presenter had a table with a bunch of rocks. Big ones, little ones, medium-sized rocks. And I don't know if you've ever seen this done, Jared, but he had a big mason jar and he started randomly putting the rocks in the mason jar. And as he put the rocks in the mason jar, he said, let's imagine this jar represents a typical week in your life. And these rocks represent the ideas or activities you need to cram into your week. And of course, he filled the jar and not all the rocks had been put into the jar. He dumped them out and then said, I'm going to put only the big ones in first and see what happens. And of course, he put the big ones in, and somehow the little ones trickled down between the crevices and they all fit. But you had to pick your big rocks. Today, we want to sort through how do we pick the best and biggest ideas to work on.
I love it. Yeah, let's jump in.
Okay, so I got 10 of these. Listeners, I want to give you permission to eat the fish and spit out the bones, okay? Idea number 1. I mentioned this before, but I want to really drill down on it now. Keep a place where you're writing down ideas constantly. I have a Google Doc that I use. There's other ways to do this, but Google Docs, you can have various people put input in. And so ideas can come at strange times as you're driving down the road, in the middle of the night, when you're sleeping. And I will just make sure I've got one place to write it all down, even if they seem random. 2, try out your book idea at a speaking event first. So if you're not a speaker all the time, ask to speak for free. Just say, can I speak to your group, your Sunday school class, you're this or you're that, and just present it. Watch how people react. You're going to get either what you're doing right now, nodding your head, or you're going to have people that staring off into space, looking at their watch and going, well, this one didn't land. So try it out speaking first, and then you'll see if it's gonna land. In other words, bounce it off people and see how it fits. 3, observe which of your ideas resonates with audiences as most relevant, especially listen to their input or their feedback. Jared, you've been a pastor. I've been a pastor. Isn't it true? At the end of the service, they shake your hand and they're supposed to say, good message, pastor, that sort of thing. But you can tell when someone's authentic, when they go beyond the, I'm going to roast you over lunch in just a minute, I have to say this, to saying, oh my gosh, that so resonated with me today, especially that third point. Now they're being honest with you. And you can tell when they're being honest with you. So I think you need to listen for input however you can get it.
It's a great point. And something else we've talked about before is not every person's feedback is created equally.
That's right.
So you need to make sure you're listening to the target audience that you're going for as well. You listen to all. It's not that we don't listen to people, but at the same time, we do understand there's a priority given to who we're trying to speak to.
Yeah.
Because those are the people that are going to receive the message and actually do something with it.
I love it. You're exactly right. In fact, another way to say what you just said is everyone has a voice. Not everybody gets a vote. And you're choosing who you let get a vote based on the audience you're trying to reach.
Very good point. Yeah.
Number 4, depending on how your brain is wired, you can scribble on more than one book at a time. I've had 2 different years of my career where I had 3 books going on at the same time. And I'm telling you, I was scribbling, but not prioritizing each one, but you just don't want to lose anything if you're going to work on it 2 years later. So that helps you force rank.
What's the scribble phase for you? Is it just idea farming on the Google Doc and talk about that. For some of us, that's a scary phase.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, I don't want anybody to see my scribbles.
Yes.
But it's an important phase.
It is. And I would say right now I've got 3 books I'm working on. One I was asked to do. Another one, somebody asked me to co-author a book, Chris Carneal, Chris. Mm-hmm. And then another one is this Gen Z book I want to work on to help managers stop getting frustrated and start getting fascinated with Gen Z. You see what I did there?
I did. Okay. I'm hooked.
Okay. So I have 3 different Google Docs.
Yeah.
And I know that some ideas might make all 3 books in terms of they're in the running to be put in the book, but it's mostly for one book. So I think you got to have different pastures to plant those seeds and keep them separate. Yeah. All right. Number 5, spring clean your list. You know how many moms and dads or husbands and wives or whatever will do some spring cleaning? I don't know why we limit it to spring. It probably needs to be done 4 times a year in every season. But occasionally it's good to review your list of ideas and see if some are no longer passions for you. Mm-hmm. That was a great idea a year and a half ago. I really don't feel strong about it. It was a fleeting moment based on the pizza I just ate,
Yeah.
So I think we need to do that and see. Then place them somewhere else for later. Maybe it comes back later. 6, go with your gut. I think sometimes our gut is really good. There was a book that came out that was very popular called Thinking Slow, Thinking Fast, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. But it was so good about your gut. I'm way oversimplifying his idea, Daniel Kahneman, but good book writing requires so much discipline that unless writing is all you do, you're not going to produce an excellent book if you're distracted with more than one. So what's your gut saying? John Maxwell's gut on choosing a book that time. And by the way, the book he chose was A New Kind of Diversity.
Is that right?
He said the Generations is hot right now. It may not be hot 5 years from now. Let's go with it. Sure. It's relevant. There's a shelf life.
That's great.
Okay? Yeah. 7, if your multiple book ideas have that shelf life, you need to know, even though I might love this one, it may go away or it may not go away. In other words, the 3 book ideas I've got right now, I think one of them has a very long shelf life, meaning it may be timeless. John Maxwell's book, The 21 Laws of Leadership, I think that's pretty timeless. It didn't matter if he wrote it in 1999 or 2009 or 2019 or 2029. It's still going to be good. But other books may not have that long shelf life. We got to figure out what's the shelf life. Go with the one that's got a shorter life right now. The longer life may be saved till later.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with timely.
That's right.
But you have to know if it's timely or timeless so that you can prioritize it.
Yeah. John Maxwell said to me one time, your best idea may not be your best idea. Your best message may not be your best message based on now. So we might have this candy cane idea we could use anytime. It's going to be awesome. Or we may say, ooh, the best idea may not be, it's the one that's best right now.
Wow, so good.
Maybe there was just a crisis, and we need to address the crisis, not write that timeless book that, may be better a few years from now.
Very good.
Just as good as today. Okay. Here's another one. Invite others in that you trust into the decision-making process. I mentioned John Maxwell. I have 2 or 3 other people that I really respect because they're not afraid to be honest with me and talk straight. They know I'm a big boy. I got thick skin. And I go to those people and they will say, that's no good. That's good. That's kind of good. And so find your accountability partners that you're willing to really share and get the feedback from, and they'll be honest with you. I think that's just important.
Very good. And collaboration, let me just touch on this for a quick second. Collaboration is hard when it comes to book writing. I think it's a very personal, a lot of times, experience that you're having. You're trying to, but John has taught me this better than anybody else in my life. He, even at his age and stage, he brings people into the process with him to collaborate. Yeah. He asks for feedback all the time. I'll never forget the first time he brought me into one of those conversations, and I'm like, I do not belong here. I don't think you're going to listen to me. You're going to actually, and he truly does, right? Yeah. Because we can learn something from everyone's perspective, and it's important to have people that you trust a part of that decision-making process.
It's so true. In fact, I remember a few years back when John began his work on the communication, the 16 laws.
Yeah, sure.
He took Dan Ryland and I on a fun trip. So we're going to have fun, but every morning we worked on that book.
Sure,
now, it was fun for me, but that's exactly what he was doing, just processing together. Yeah, so it's pretty big. Number 9, check to see if one of your ideas could be a subplot or a secondary idea for a bigger idea. So I had this happen to me. I thought I had 2 good ideas, and they were good, but not great. One emerged as the greater idea. The other one, that became a chapter or a couple of chapters within the other book. And I was in a vein that I could include them both, and it made the book even stronger. So look for major plot and subplots in your list of ideas.
Wow. What happens, Tim, so we talked about systems and framework.
Yeah.
What happens when your outline is there, your framework is set, you've got your track, but then somewhere along the process, you find something that really should be a subplot?
Yeah.
Do you allow yourself to adjust the framework and the outline? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah,
for us?
I have done that, but that's often where I need a really good person that I trust to say, that's secondary. I've often thought that when I write books, writing a book is a little bit like having a baby. You've heard me say this before, but let me tell you why it's like that. If your wife gives birth to a baby, you both think, oh, this is the cutest baby in the world. Sure. You're not willing to say, no,
sure.
It's wrinkled. It's really wrinkled. Right. You need someone to say your baby's wrinkled, buddy.
Not a lot of objectivity.
That's right. You're not really objective. So when I first write, I go, oh my gosh, this is great. I'll share it with my wife. Oh, good. I can tell it's not really a great idea. Sure. And my wife is kind enough to say, it's not a cute baby.
Sure.
So we need those people that help us do that. Okay, number 10. The book idea you choose should absolutely capture your imagination. We talked about passion in the last episode, and we overuse the word passion, but I mean you ought to be living, breathing. It preoccupies your mind. Everything you experience, every encounter you have with a person reminds you of the book. That's what ought to happen. And I get, right now, I'm totally obsessed with this Generation Z book, The Future Begins with Z. And so I was up with some college administrators yesterday, and they gave me 3 or 4 ideas. They didn't know they were, but if all you have is a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. You've heard that phrase.
Sure.
I got a hammer. Everything looks like a nail.
Sure.
So the book will help you align and get there, but make sure it's absolute fire inside of you. It captures your imagination. That's going to help you get to the goal. I think it's hard to do it with 5 ideas at once. Maybe 3, but 1 is really good. And that's where I'm getting to this. Make sure it's a passion. Yeah. So I'll stop there.
Wow. Please don't. Please don't. I think these are so practical and helpful. As we look at these, and I'd encourage you too, listeners, get the show notes. We're going to have these 10 strategies for you in the show notes. I think this is a pain point that we as writers deal with. What do we do with all the ideas?
Yeah.
How do we organize them effectively? How do we remain open-minded enough while still organized? These strategies are going to help you do that. Thanks so much, Tim. As we close, you had a little bit of a story here that kind of encapsulated everything.
Well, this talk today, these 10 points, were never so clear to me as one particular year. It was the fiscal year for 2001, so it was more than 20 years ago. I had begun work on a book called Nurturing the Leader Within Your Child. And that's been my life. How do we help leadership get to the next generation? Nelson Bibles came down from Nashville to meet with John. John had me in the meeting, and they wanted him to do the Maxwell Leadership Bible. Well, I quickly learned why John wanted me in the meeting. You're going to do the heavy lifting on this, Tim.
Sure.
And I said to John, I've already begun work on Nurturing the Leader in Your Child. Plus, John Hall had said, Tim, we should write a book together, which later became Pivotal Praying. But then this paramount book, Maxwell Leadership Bible, came up, and here's what John said. I said, John, I've just begun my doctoral dissertation, plus I got these other books going on. I think I'm going to kill myself. And John quickly said, here's your priority. And he said, see if your college, where you're getting your doctoral dissertation done, would let this become part of that project. And I did ask, and they helped me. So John helped me force rank. And I tell you what the force rank was. Maxwell Leadership Bible came first. That was first priority. And I sat in my basement for 13 months helping John with that book. Second was Nurturing Leader in Your Child. And then third was Pivotal Praying. But John helped me. This is what we're talking about. Force rank. So I wasn't overwhelmed that year. I was busy, but I wasn't overwhelmed because I got the big rock.
Wow.
And I knew what it was. And I think that's what we got to do. We just got to know what ideas matter most.
Could you go? That's so good. Can you go a step deeper into the word force?
Yeah.
For me, and just help me understand. I love that modifier, but I want you to go a step deep. Just unpack that a little bit more.
Well, the
force
reason,
rank.
Yeah, the reason force rank is so important is because remember I started with I had to learn systems, and I'm a natural creative.
Yep.
I love every idea. I got that from my mom. And John Maxwell's a little bit that way, doesn't he? Isn't he? So I think force ranking means it's not no, it's not now. You've used that phrase before, I'm sure. So saying no to an idea for now doesn't mean you'll never do it. It means you've got a shelf or a pasture to plant that seed in for later.
Wow.
You're going to harvest that next year. But right now, you better do this. So it's so hard for me. Every idea I have is like having a baby and they're all cute. But somebody has to say, not as cute as this one. And so maybe I had triplets that year, but I knew which one I had to pay attention to. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Well, is it fair to say that you have to have someone a part of that process with you?
I do. Yeah. Some other people might not. Some other people are brilliant at not getting married to every idea or thinking every idea is a beautiful set of triplets. You know, it's no, this
that
one
is
first.
so helpful.
Yeah.
That's so helpful.
I heard a mother say one time, someone asked me, which of your children do you love most? And I said, well, I love all my children. And when they said, no, which do you love most? And what they were getting at is what she said. She goes, I guess it's the child that needs me the most right now.
Wow.
And I thought maybe there's a book idea that needs me the most right now that's going to help me get to the best idea. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. I just want all the mothers out there to know
Yeah.
Tim Elmore is not likening himself to what you went through.
That's right. I am not. I promise you.
He's not. It may sound that way, but he is not. He understands. I understand
Yes.
very clearly.
We're not mothers.
My place in this world. Right. So good. So helpful. I hope that you go to the show notes, take advantage of this opportunity to get the notes from this lesson. Let us know how it's helping you. Let us know how it's maybe meeting a need for you. And if you have questions or other thoughts that come from it, we'd love to hear them and maybe cover them in future episodes. But until next time, remember, the world needs the book in you.